comprehensive, thorough, and independent investigation, coupled with the medical examiner's determination that Mr. Gray's death was a homicide, which we received today, has led us to believe that we have probable cause to file criminal charges.
That was Marilyn Mosby, the state prosecutor for the city of Baltimore. The 6 officers involved in the arrest of Freddie Gray are now facing a variety of charges, ranging from assault to manslaughter, and they carry some serious prison time if they're convicted. Mosby even said there was no reason to arrest Gray in the first place. He had a knife, she says, but it was a legal one. She also said the cops did not respond properly when he was crying out for medical attention from the back of the police van. So a couple of questions that spring from this. This seems to be different than what we've seen in a lot of other police-involved death cases in the last 6 months. They're really throwing the book at these cops, Dominic.
This thing is a mess. This is an absolute mess. What occurred today in Baltimore is going to please the black community. But let me play the role of devil's advocate for a second.
Go ahead.
What's the first thing? Okay, remember Amadou Diallo? What did the cops do in the Bronx against a black district attorney? They claimed that it was an unfair venue, got the case switched from the Bronx up to Albany, and they were acquitted. If I'm a defense attorney, the first thing I'm going to say is they cannot receive a fair trial in this environment. This prosecutor must be removed. But Andrew, it's a very valid point.
No, it totally is.
Her husband is the city councilman that represents that district. The defense lawyer, the lawyer for the man that died in police custody, that lawyer raised campaign funds for her. They've got a serious problem in Baltimore.
And that's a valid problem, especially when you're talking about a trial, but a trial right now is months or even a year plus away. Is it your take, Phil, just from what you saw today, that maybe this is overcharging just to try to stem some of this violence, maybe to calm the streets down?
Well, it could be overcharging and it could be overpromising. And we've seen this movie before where, indictments are one thing, might calm things down, but people want, when they say they want justice, they want convictions. And if there's, a wrongful death here, that's what they're going to want. And if these guys get off, we're going to could have a whole nother reprise of rioting and things like that.
And of course, we don't know the evidence that the state attorney has. But if I'm a defense attorney, how are you going to prove without any video that these officers, and I'm just giving you the other side to this, how are you going to prove this?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a mess, a mess.
You were talking about the potential impact on this if they go to trial and they wind up not being able to get convictions.
Right.
And certainly then people will be casting an eye on the prosecutor here. But there have been questions about how the Baltimore Police Department and how the Baltimore mayor have been handling this thing from the get-go.
Right.
Where do you draw that balance between letting people protest and clamping down? I mean, de Blasio, in the wake of the Garner protests, pretty much let the protesters have the streets, and now he's saying, no, we were right to clamp down in the recent protests that we had this week.
Well, protest is fine. It's just when it escalates into rioting, you got another whole problem on your hands. So, I don't think anybody was disallowing anyone to march or have a peaceful protest. I didn't get that impression.
It comes down to defined rules that the law enforcement agency that's involved lays down. Now, Mayor de Blasio of New York City was under fire because the demonstrators claimed that there was limited room on the sidewalk, and the police told them that if they stepped off the sidewalk, they would be arrested. And that's what happened, 140 arrests. So in Philadelphia, Mayor Nutter claimed that they wanted the protesters to get on the highway. The police had to stop them. There was pushing back and forth. It all depends on the circumstance. These protests are not going to stop. We'll see.
I think, Dominic, also a lot of it depends on the leadership at the top too, and how you disseminate information and talk to people immediately after an incident.
And whether you have credibility.
Right, and credibility, and I think in this case it was, 3 weeks before anything was, a lot of things were allowed to simmer. A lot of rumors were allowed to fly around.
Have we not been able to have the conversation about underlying causes? I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier this week, but you've got another police-involved death. But you've also got the economic conditions. We were talking in the break. Everybody knows that Baltimore has been going down the tubes or has been in deep trouble for a long time.
Despite Camden Yards,
right,
and all the tourists,
right, or Harbor Place, or the Ravens. Right. But the underlying question, I guess, about economic prosperity, especially for individual communities, have we not been able to have that conversation because of what happened?
Well, I think we're trying to have that conversation, and I think it goes down to certain lines of thought. On the one hand, this idea of how much commitment are we making to fighting poverty in this country.
It's a tough conversation
and it's a philosophical discussion too. A lot of it has to do with just break down. I had a brother who was a cop. Oh, you got to go.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Okay.
We're out of time.
Yeah.
But we'll have you back and we'll talk about your brother.
Yeah.
Phil Reisman, thank you so much. Right. Dominic, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, guys. Up next, right now, employers are allowed to ask job applicants whether they have criminal records. A group in New York is working on a plan that could ban that practice, but it could leave companies open to lawsuits if they don't properly screen someone. Could it wind up hurting coworkers in the process? That's next.